afternoon and welcome to the Montpellier information session, the October 14th edition, 2021. And we're going to go over the basics of the program, academics, housing, just all the sort of fundamentals, and answer questions, open it up to questions at the end. So, without further ado, I will hand it off to the program director located in Montpellier, Amy Law.
Thank you very much, April, and thank you all so much for joining us today. I almost said this evening because it's evening my time here in Montpellier, but it's so nice to see you. So I'll be talking to you today about, as April mentioned, about our program, about the city of Montpellier, and about our partner university in Montpellier as well. So I'll just be giving you probably about 20 to 30 minutes worth of information about the program, and then I can stay as long as you need to answer any questions that you may have. I'll try to keep an eye on the chat as I'm speaking. I have gotten a little bit rusty with my Zoom because here in France now, we are all in person all the time. So which is wonderful, and we're so happy to be back with people. But I do enjoy Zoom and all of the fun features that we can use as well. And I definitely think it has its place. So you'll forgive me if I forget a few things. But April, if you let me know if you see anything very important coming up on the chat, I would love it. If not, please just be patient with me and then remind me at the end if I missed your question. I'd be more than happy to answer it directly. So I believe we have all of your information, so I don't need to ask you to put any emails or anything in the chat. That's fine. So what I'll do is I will share my screen and give you a little bit of information. I believe I can do that. So you'll just let me know if this works. All right. And are you able to see the PowerPoint presentation? Yes, excellent. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I always ask that, even if I'm pretty sure it works. Okay, wonderful. Well, let me see. I am just going to start from the beginning here. So this is our beautiful Place de la Comédie and our tramway system that runs through Montpellier. We have a beautiful center, pedestrian center in Montpellier, and you see the opera and our tramway. We have 4 lines of trams that circle all around through Montpellier, bringing students to the university, to their residences, and even to the beach. So I'll talk a little bit about that as well, and our lovely location here in the south of France. So we have been offering since 1999 our program for Mount Holyoke students, and now we have the pleasure of also welcoming students from other colleges in the 5 college systems, specifically Amherst and Hampshire College. Hopefully we may open up to others as well in the future. We have 3 options for students: the fall semester, the spring semester, or the academic year. So a little bit of history for you. When we began this program back in 1999, the program was just only the academic year. That was the only option. It was traditionally a junior year abroad program. And then it was in 2008 that we offered the opportunities for students to come for the fall or the spring. And so I'll address those a little bit as we go through. So for my presentation, I'll be talking to you about the city of Montpellier, about the universities, and I do like to mention that this is plural because we have a host university in Montpellier, but we also offer the option for students, if they're interested, to study and take a class or 2 at other specific universities in Montpellier. I'll be speaking a little bit about your housing, which of course is a little bit different this year and probably next year as well due to COVID protocols, the administration for our program, how to just give you an overview a little bit about obtaining your student visa. And then I'll just admit someone joining in, and then a little checklist for you as well for things that you need to think about applying for the program, and about calendars and dates in terms of travel and when the university begins. So where is Montpellier? Well, here is your I was going to say your carte, your map of France. And I always say France is, it's a little bit like the form of your hand. We call it the hexagon in France. And you can see, I'm going to put my cursor right around the city of Montpellier here in the south on the coast of the Mediterranean. Now, disclaimer, we are not exactly on the coast of the Mediterranean. My apartment is in the center of Montpellier and I cannot see the beach from where I am, but we are quite close. We're about 10 miles away. So it's approximately a 15 to 20 minute bus ride to get to the local coastal town of Palavas, which is very near Montpellier. We are approximately 3 hours and 20 minutes by fast train up to Paris. And we are also very close, as you can see, to both Spain and to Italy. This is something that our Romance language students, majors from Mount Holyoke, have always appreciated. We're about 3 hours from the border of Spain and about 5 hours to Italy. So as we said, Montpellier, c'est une ville méditerranéenne. So as I mentioned, close to the Mediterranean coast. Location is really a hub around the Mediterranean for travel, very easy to get to. Students regularly go to Barcelona, regularly to Venice, to Florence, to Rome. And the climate, now it's a Mediterranean climate. Sometimes this can lead people to think it might be a bit tropical, like Florida, but it really is more similar to the Carolinas. We do get a bit chilly in the winter. It can get cold. We spend a lot of time outdoors. So you do need a warm coat in the winter, warm sweaters. It can get rainy in the fall. It hasn't gotten very rainy yet here so far, and we're almost in mid-October, so very happy about that. But I do caution students that it's a mild climate. We get very little snow, maybe a dusting every few years, but it can get a bit chilly in the winter. So. Now, a little bit about the history of Montpellier. Montpellier was founded in 985. So the amount of culture and history in the city, you can even see it on this wall behind me in my apartment building. There's a lot of old stone that you'll see in Montpellier, but Montpellier started out as a very small town. It was just a little village on a hill. And the university system was founded in the 13th century, and it began with our very well-known medical university in Montpellier, La Faculté de Médecine, which is one of the renowned medical universities around not just France, but Europe as well. And from that university, the entire university system developed. And there are, if I'm not mistaken, 7 public universities associated within the university system in Montpellier. And our home university, which is the Humanities University in Montpellier, is one of those universities. Montpellier is the capital of the Département Hérault. And I just realized I need to update my slide because we no longer have the region Languedoc-Roussillon. They've just been recently renamed. And Montpellier, with our former region of Languedoc-Roussillon, has merged with the city of Toulouse, if you know your southern France geography. And so now our region is called Occitanie, and that's named after a local dialect from the south of France, which is called Occitan. So I see I need to fix my slide. But what I'd love to point out to students, even more importantly, is the situation of Montpellier in France. We really have a dual personality in Montpellier as both a cultural and a technological center in France. Montpellier became a real technological hub back in about the 1970s with the development of IBM in Montpellier. And so it was a European and Middle Eastern headquarters. I know probably too much about IBM because my husband was an engineer for IBM for 25 years. And so around IBM developed other companies such as Dell as well, and lots of startup companies now, Ubisoft and other technological companies. But we also have a very well-known dance and music center in Montpellier. We have the National Choreographic Center located for France. It's located in Montpellier, and also the Radio France festivals in the summers, theater festivals as well. They're also in Montpellier. So we really do offer these 2 parts of our personality in the south of France. And so I love to point that out. For me, that I enjoy that. Now, a little bit about the population of Montpellier. So the total population is about 300,000 for the city of Montpellier. But if you take in greater Montpellier, meaning all the suburbs around the city of Montpellier, it's even larger. But the student population in the center of Montpellier is about 80,000 students. It's a very young city. They say the number probably about a quarter of the population is under the age of 25 in the city of Montpellier, which quite honestly is one of the reasons that we at Mount Holyoke decided to create this program in Montpellier, because it's a city that really focuses on students, and it's a very young population. And I apologize, you might hear my cats in the background meowing a little bit, so I hope that didn't get me onto the record. It's the 7th largest city in France, Montpellier is, and that's in terms of population. It's not in terms of the actual geography. There was a big to-do in France a few years ago about how Montpellier moved ahead of Bordeaux, the city of Bordeaux, in the rankings of the largest cities in France. But Bordeaux, when you visit Bordeaux, it's quite a vast city. It seems very royal, and it's very large, and it takes a long time to get from one side of the city to the other. Montpellier, the center is very walkable. It's very easy to get around, but it's very populated. It's very densely populated in the center of town, but the actual city itself doesn't feel that big. And I think that Mount Holyoke students really enjoy that, because even just after a few days, as long as you're looking for it, if you can see my cursor, you can see on the bottom photo, there's quite a tall church steeple that you can see, and that's the Église Sainte Anne. And so I always tell students, this is a way where you can, as long as you can see that where Sainte Anne is, you know where you are in relation to the city. And so students don't feel comfortable about learning the way around quickly and being able to get around Montpellier. It's also a very diverse city. There are lots of people from lots of different places living in Montpellier, from all over France, all over the Mediterranean region. And we are seeing many more Europeans coming back to France and coming back to Montpellier now that the borders have reopened post-COVID, and we're hoping that that continues that way as well. It's also very religiously and ethnically diverse, and that's something that we hold dear. It's important because, as I mentioned before, the geography of Montpellier, it's a small city, so we're always in contact with each other out and about, but people are very respectful of diversity, and that's very important. And then lastly, I do like to mention this, that Montpellier in the south of France, it's a city that, probably because it has so many young people, it's a modest city socioeconomically. And I find this is really an advantage for our students, because it's a city where you can go out and get a coffee for maybe €2. There are always discounts for students at the movie theater, or they have these special passes. If you'd like to go to the opera or the Philharmonic Orchestra, you can see 4 shows for €20. They've had that deal going on for years. I don't know how long it's been. And it's just a wonderful way. They feel it's very important, our local government, to allow people from all backgrounds to be able to take advantage of all the culture that we have to offer in the city of Montpellier. And so, as I mentioned, there's a lot going on in Montpellier in terms of entertainment. There's always something going on la Place de la Comédie, perhaps some just impromptu shows. The photo here on the right-hand side where you see the performer, the singer, that's actually a very famous singer. Some of you might know, Mika, who sang a very popular song about 10 years ago, 8 years ago, called Elle me dit. And one of the backup singers is actually a former Mount Holyoke student in Montpellier, so who auditioned for his show and was able to join the performance. So her name is Audrey, and I believe she still works in admissions at Mount Holyoke. So just keep that name in mind. So a wonderful singing voice. And so in Montpellier, we have so many things going on. We have our own opera. We have a national art museum, the Musée Fabre, which is fantastic. And by the way, all museums in France are free to visit on the first Sunday of every month. So even if you don't come to Montpellier, remember that. So if you go to France, first Sunday of the month, admission is free for any museum. We have our Philharmonic Orchestra, a lot of athletic facilities, the swimming pools, dance centers. We even have an ice skating rink, which is kind of funny when you think about it. In the south of France, we even have an ice hockey team. but you know, not a particular climate for ice hockey, but we do have it. And so just a lot of things that you can visit just within Montpellier, even before you start exploring outside of Montpellier and visiting local cities and hopefully even other countries as travel becomes more accessible in the hopefully the months to come. Now, Université Paul Valéry. So part 2 of my presentation is about our host university. Université Paul Valéry is the humanities university in Montpellier. Now, they are our host university because, quite honestly, they offer a wide variety of courses that correspond mostly to what our students need, not entirely. And so this is why we've started up some other partnerships with some other universities that are specific in Montpellier. And then just to back up a little bit, the university system in France is very different from in the United States. So the concept of a liberal arts college or a large university with different schools of discipline in the same university, it isn't done that way in France. It's done very differently. When students graduate from high school, they make a decision. I'm going to study French, or I'm going to study biology, or I'm going to study political science. And so there's a different university for each discipline or group of disciplines. And so Université Paul Valéry is for the humanities, but if a student is a student from our program, the Mount Holyoke program, is very interested in taking a physics course that isn't offered at the Université Paul Valéry, well, lucky for you, there's the Math and Science University. It's located just across the street from Université Paul Valéry. And so we have the option of allowing our students to be able to take classes over there as well. But getting back to UPV, so Université Paul Valéry, it's very easily accessible by the tramway system. As I mentioned at the beginning, it's just a little bit north of downtown Montpellier. And they have a wonderful integration of international students. They've really perfected their welcome and their support of international students, not just from Anglophone programs like ours, but from students all around Europe and around the world for many, many years. And when I was a student at Mount Holyoke College, I graduated in '94. When I was a junior, I decided to study abroad in Montpellier. Before our Mount Holyoke program existed, it was with the College of William and Mary, and my home base university was UPV. So I'd like to say it wasn't too long ago, but it was a little while ago. And so they've done a wonderful job. Now, here are some of our partner universities in Montpellier. So the Faculté de Droit et Sciences Politiques, that's law and political science. That's in the university, another university near and dear to my heart, where I obtained my master's degree. So I'm very happy to help students who are interested in international relations, political science. It's located in downtown, excellent option. La Faculté de Théologie for students who are interested in taking courses in religion. The Université de Sciences et Mathématiques, as I mentioned, just across the street from UPV. Conservatoire de Danse. I've had a few dance majors over the years taking classes in dance. Normally, it's required for students to be at level 5 in dance at Mount Holyoke. Now, I am not a dancer, so this doesn't really speak to me, but I'm always happy to explore these options and communicate with dance teachers in Montpellier to try to make sure that you're in the right place for your courses. And then the École d'Architecture is a new partnership, and I have yet to have a student take advantage of it. So I'm looking for a guinea pig. So someone who's interested in architecture, we would be delighted to help you out. Now, this is just an example. There are other universities in Montpellier as well. There's the Pharmaceutical University. There is there's the Medical University, which might be a little bit more complicated, but there's certainly possibilities. So if you are interested in something that you do not see on this list, or you don't think you can find the course at UPV, just send me an email and I'll see what I can find for you. Now, for our program, students must take 5 courses per semester to obtain 16 credits. This is different for students at Mount Holyoke, who traditionally take 4 courses. It's a little bit of a fuzzy math, so you're going to be dividing 16 by 5, but don't worry about it. April and I have been doing this for a long time, so we will make sure that all of your credits transfer appropriately. Now, a full course is approximately 2 to 3 hours per week, contact hours, per week in Montpellier. And you can also take support courses. For students from US programs, this is a special benefit that we have from Université Valéry, and they've really developed these courses beyond simple language courses such as grammar and methodology and phonetics, but now they offer thematic courses as well. Cinema, French civilization, and there's a wonderful art history class where the professor, it takes the students out usually every week or every other week to visit museums in the area. So it's a very popular class. So there are definitely a lot of options for you. And if you'd like the list of classes, just send me a message. I'd be happy to send that along. And so, so I clicked a little bit too quickly, but the Mount Holyoke Housing in Montpellier. Now, I'm going to give you a little bit of context about this. And if you hear something behind me, I live right next to the Cathédrale Saint-Pierre. And so there's going to be a little bit of ding dong for the next minute. So thank you for your patience with that. I hope I can talk above the bells. Is that okay? All right, good. So, okay. So one of the advantages, I love the bells, but when they start ringing at 8 o'clock in the morning, sometimes on a weekend, so could pass. But getting back to housing. So housing in Montpellier, for currently, we have individual studios at student residence for students. Just in terms of COVID safety, this is what I am envisioning as well for the next year. So 2022, 23. However, it's flexible and it's fluid. We'll have to see how things work. Historically, we've offered a number of options for our students on the program, from homestays to furnished apartments that could be shared in Montpellier, in addition to the individual studios. So as our situation evolves here in Montpellier regarding the sanitary situation, as we say, the situation sanitaire, then we'll see if it would be possible for us to open up the homestay options to students or shared apartments. So just in terms of safety right now, what we're doing for this academic year, 21-22, students are housed in individual studios at a student residence, and I will show you where they are. So they are at this residence. It's like a dormitory, but it's not specific just to one university in Montpellier. There are students from many different universities around Montpellier. It's a private résidence, if you will. And so they're all furnished studios. It's a great location in downtown Montpellier, and it has everything that you could imagine that you would need in a standard dormitory. I mean, I can't say a dormitory like a residence hall like Mount Holyoke because there's nothing comparable, of course, but they do have laundry machines and Wi-Fi. Really is a friendly atmosphere. The staff is fantastic. They try to organize activities for the students every so often. And there is a concierge. They have someone present all the time in case something breaks in your apartment, or you just you need help with something, or if you want to, if you and so the apartment and convenient. Now, looking ahead, we do not have the calendar yet for the upcoming academic year, but based on what we're doing this year, I'm projecting some tentative dates. So in theory, it looks like the students would be leaving on August 31st from the United States, would be from JFK likely, or Newark, but probably JFK, to come to Montpellier. So you'll be flying during the night and arriving on September 1st. So this is the group flight option. Again, this is tentative. This is to be confirmed once we have the academic calendar. We have an orientation program for a week that's conducted by myself and our team in Montpellier, and I'll speak about them in a minute. We do orientation, so you see a lot of us. Your first week in Montpellier, showing you around the city, making sure that you're settled in, that you're comfortable, learning how to use the tramway, getting your tram passes, learning about the university, really much everything that we can help you with. We're really there for you all the time at the start. And then the fall semester will probably begin approximately around September 7th. So it's quite similar, I think, to your calendar at Mount Holyoke. The fall semester should end approximately around December 17th. And so I'm projecting a tentative return for fall semester students back around December 18th. Now, if you're interested in staying for the academic year, first of all, yay, I really encourage you to think about that. You can certainly stay in your housing. during the winter break. If you would like to have family or friends come visit you, or if you plan to travel around Europe, you could certainly do that. So there's no need to move out of your studio apartment or your homestay. For example, if you happen to be a homestay, we take care of that. Now for the spring calendar, so it looks like the program will begin mid-January. And so we're looking at a tentative group flight departure January 15th. And then the spring semester will be approximately, about a week later. So again, we have the 1 week of orientation. And then the program will tentatively end probably around May 17th. So it's usually before the end of May. Again, this is subject to change, but based on what they projected this year, this looks like what we'll be doing. And then just a word about group travel. So I coordinate the travel for the students who select this option. The travel includes a round trip flight from New York City to Montpellier. If we have a number of students participating in the group flight, I really do encourage you to take advantage of it if you can. It's not required. If you have reasons, for example, if you're coming in from another country, if you're coming for the spring semester and you're sure that you're going to be staying in Europe for the summer, and you need that flexibility for your travel arrangements, it's absolutely, just let me know and it's perfectly fine. But I just wanted to let you know that the travel, it's usually New York City to Montpellier, but if the group is large enough and if it's convenient for students, and if there's a possibility as flights open up more now after, we're hopefully projecting to post-COVID, to have a group leaving from Boston. I've done that in the past as well. So we could have two groups leaving, one from New York City and one from Boston. Usually the airfare is comparable. So if I'm able to do that, I'm happy to try to accommodate you. And then just a few words about some activities in Montpellier. So there are lots of activities that you can join. I had a student, Sophie Manham, who played on a soccer team a few years ago. Students have joined hiking clubs, dance groups, political organizations, photography clubs. Really, they're just, if you're interested in something in particular that you'd like to continue doing in Montpellier, please just let me know and I will try to help you find your place. And in the past, we've also offered cooking classes, les cours de cuisine. This year, they may be on a bit of a hiatus, but I'm working on finding an alternative solution. There is a tour guide in Montpellier who's a gastronomical tour guide. And so we're going to be doing some outdoor visits to local restaurants and food stores to be able to learn more about French food and to be able to do a little bit of tasting around the way. So just keeping it COVID friendly, but we all know that food is a very important part of France and about French culture. So I want to make sure that everyone takes advantage of that. And we also include excursions with guides from an association called Haute Couture. And these photos are actually very, very recent. They're from our Mount Holyoke in Montpellier Mountain Day excursion that we had just a couple of weekends ago. And this Saturday, the students are going on another excursion again with our guides. These photos are from Arles and les Baux-de-Provence. And there are a number of beautiful historic cities and villages to visit around in the south of France. So for day trips, we try to organize at least 3 of these per semester so the students can get out, get on a little bus and go visit places where it's difficult to access by train. Because of course you can travel on your own, but I like to try to give you some opportunities where you can visit some places where you might not normally be able to visit on your own. And then this is just my information. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to contact me by email. This is all, by the way, on the Mount Holyoke program in Montpellier page from the Mount Holyoke website. So don't feel like you have to write all this down furiously. I'm very easy to find. But this is all my information. So please don't hesitate to contact me with any questions that you may have. And then I am very, very happy to announce that I have some help here in Montpellier. For a long time, I was a one-woman show, but now we have a little team in Montpellier. So I have the great pleasure of working with 2 other alums from Mount Holyoke. So Celia Thévenot, who is our assistant director, and Kim Mousseron, who is our special project manager. And so we are really enjoying working together in different capacities. And so it's a lot of fun for us to be able to work together as well and work together with the students. Now, just quickly, and I'm just going to breeze through this because I've been talking for a long time and I want to make sure I leave plenty of time for questions. This is just a little overview of what you need to do to apply for your student visa. We go through a process, it's called Campus France, is basically where you all get started on doing your online application. As soon as you are accepted into the program for your semester or for your year, I will reach out to you and tell you exactly what you need to do. So don't feel like you need to write all of this down. But just to kind of give you a heads up, just put it on your radar, you do need to apply for a student visa to be able to come for France. It's not a difficult process. It's a bit long, but it's nothing it's nothing too complicated for you to do. So don't worry about that. And then just a little bit of a checklist to give you an idea. So your fall semester, when you're accepted to the program, I'll send out an email with a bunch of tasks that I'll need you to complete, to take a French placement test, begin your Campus France applications, just a lot of administrative things to walk you through. And then I just wanted to point out for number 3 here, for students who have received the vaccination, for COVID-19, we do have a process to translate that to the French system. In France, we have what we call a pass sanitaire. So it's a QR code that we have on our phones, and it allows us to enter restaurants, cafes, museums, concerts, things like that. So it is important to be aware of this pass sanitaire. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to contact me about that, but I will also be walking you through this process as well if you decide to participate in the program. And the same with the spring semester. So I'm just gonna click on through that. So there you go. So if you have any questions for me, this now is the time. I would love to hear from you.
Hello. Sorry. Okay, I'll be real quick.
Thank you. I know it's always so funny. Hi.
Sorry about it. Hi, my name is Walker. I am a sophomore right now, and I'm really interested in the program. And I am even thinking of going for a year because I think I'm gonna love it there. And I feel like if I do like only fall or something, I feel like I'm gonna miss it when I leave. So I have a couple of questions, 2 questions. I am planning to major in film, media, theater in Montpellier, and I was wondering if any of the other students have done that before, because I was not able to get a lot of credit for my major this semester because I was on wait list and I couldn't get in. And I was wondering if I'm sure the universities offer the classes, but I was wondering if you could tell me more about classes for film, media, and theater.
Film media. Okay, I heard theater and I wasn't sure if it was film. Yes, there is a large department at the Université Valéry. It's called Art du Spectacle, so spectacle arts, and it has 2 subdivisions. It has cinema and it has theater. So I can't imagine there would be any problem for you being able to take classes. There's a wide variety of courses. So perhaps what I would like to invite you to do is to send me a follow-up email and remind me about your interest. And what I can do is I can send you the links to the different courses that are available so you can speak with your advisor and see what would be best for you. In France, the universities, they have courses at the level, so 1st year, 2nd year, and 3rd year, because their bachelor's degree is actually done in 3 years and not 4. So depending on what level of courses you need, I would recommend if you can do your 300 level courses at Montpellier, that will take the pressure off you a bit to be able to focus on the language and to be able to do perhaps your 200 level courses that might be a little bit easier. So.
Thank you very much. And one more question. When you say studio, does that mean there's like a personal bathroom inside?
I'm so glad I was going through the housing and I knew I forgot to say something, but I couldn't remember what it was. So thank you so much for your question. Yes. So I will say, no, it's perfect. So, so in the studio apartment, there is a small bedroom with, so it has a bed, a closet, a desk, chair, like a little table, a little night table. So it's small, but it's functional. And then next to the room, so in the studio apartment, there is a small bathroom with a shower and a toilet and a sink and a little, and so it's individual just for you, and a little heater and towel rack and things. And then next to that, it's kind of like, I think they call it a galley kitchen as well. And so there's a little kitchenette with, so in the kitchen, you have a sink. And then I'm like using my hands to figure out where everything's placed. And so you have this sink and then 2 burners. And then there's a microwave oven that also functions as a convection oven. It's small, and there's a little refrigerator as well. So everything is contained in this one unit.
Thank you very much. That's
Again,
perfect.
thank you for your question. I knew I was missing something. So.